When we celebrate Shakespeare, we celebrate the power of words. We scribes often describe Washington as downright Shakespearean. And why not? He wrote the script. That's what the fellow who just introduced me said, Michael Whitmore. He told me that 4 years ago as we discussed the speeches in the 2012 presidential race. Almost all of our political rhetoric, Whitmore told me, comes from two books from the 16th and 17th centuries, the King James Bible and Shakespeare's plays. Like me, Whitmore was impressed by Bill Clinton's speech, his comedic and sometimes ad-libbed speech at the Democratic National Convention. Bubba is back, I said. Even President Obama sounded like he thought the former president did a better job of selling the current president than the current president did. As Obama said, somebody emailed me after his speech and they said, you need to appoint him to be the Secretary of Explaining Stuff. I like that, said Obama, and I do too. Later, comedian Seth Meyers observed on Saturday Night Live that we already have a job for that. It's called president. And that's true. Explaining stuff is a big part of the job. Some leaders do it better than others do. In fact, the use of a Shakespearean simplicity in language is something that President Clinton, President Obama, and Donald Trump hold in common. Yes, we cannot get this far into the program without mentioning the name of Donald Trump. In fact, at a campaign rally back in December in Hilton Head, the Republican frontrunner explained the importance of words while describing the State Department. Quote, I'm telling you, I used to use the word incompetent. Now I call them stupid. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I know the best words. But there's no better word than stupid, right? Unquote. Well, no wonder Michael Whitmore was intrigued by the language of politics. In fact, Michael took the text of Bill Clinton's remarks and compared it to Obama's speech and found that Clinton relied almost exclusively on single-syllable, action-oriented words, words that come from the Germanic, Anglo-Saxon roots of English. Obama more often employed larger and more nuanced Latin-rooted words. Must be that University of Chicago exposure, right? Words that the French brought to English with the Norman Conquest back in 1066. Today, Whitmore said, you could say that almost all of our political rhetoric comes from those two books. Well, indeed, political speech comes to us in two speeds, as Michael also said, or I would call them socioeconomic tongues. There was Latin and its derivative Romance languages, French, Spanish, Italian, became the English spoken mainly by elites in the law, bureaucracy, and the intelligentsia. Short, action-oriented Anglo-Saxon words with the hard consonants, fighting, eating, hiking, became the day-to-day language that common people talk. Want to know the difference? Listen to rock and roll. Rock and roll rhythms are not very tolerant of fancy Latinate words. A notable exception, as Michael pointed out, was the Rolling Stones classic, I Can't Get No Satisfaction. Go from the Latinate to the Anglo-Saxon in a very effective way. But then Mick Jagger ran into something of a dilemma. What can he get to rhyme with satisfaction? Well, we all know the answer, don't we? Girly action. Well, if you're like me now, that song will be stuck in your head all day, won't it? But oh no, it's only rock and roll, but I like it. Yes, I do. Oh, Will fits remarkably well, even in our age of rock and roll and raucous discourse. All the world's a stage, he said, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Indeed, this is true. I have found that, in fact, I wonder, what would Shakespeare say about today's era of government shutdowns, debt ceiling showdowns, and Obamacare website meltdowns? He wouldn't be surprised. As Wilmore said, he wrote the script. Indeed, dealing with kings, queens, aristocrats, others from the top to the bottom of society, Shakespeare understood how history repeats itself in very different times and places. Thus, it is not hard for us to imagine Shakespeare writing the script for today's politics. Might have Speaker Paul Ryan refusing pleas from others to run for president, reminding us of Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. Republican Chair Reince Priebus could borrow from Twelfth Night to address Paul Ryan. Be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great. Some achieve greatness. Some have greatness thrust upon them. President Obama could turn to Hamlet in addressing congressional GOP leaders. Do you think I am easier to be played on than a pipe? Or Donald Trump to Megyn Kelly. I'll speak daggers to her, but use none. We can hope. Or from Othello, rude am I in my speech, but little blessed with the soft phrase of peace. As You Like It provides a good line for Supreme Court candidate, Merrick Garland, as he visits senators on Capitol Hill. I like this place and I like this place and willingly could waste my time in it. Or Ted Cruz, the world has grown so bad that wrens make prey where eagles dare not perch. Or my good friend, Justice Clarence Thomas, brevity is the soul of wit. Or back to the ever-quotable Donald Trump, though this be madness, yet there is a method in it. Well, indeed, whatever happens in our politics today, we will be in for more surprises, but one thing that I think will be consistent, we know who wrote the script. Thank you very much.